Hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I'm your host, Dylan. Today, Farmer Cassidy and I are going to sit down with a friend of ours, Ling. Ling has helped us a few times on the farm during Chicken Day, and she also is responsible for the wonderful photos of our farm-to-table dinner we hosted last fall. She is a photographer, a published author, and, of course, an entrepreneur. We're going to sit down with her and learn a little bit more. That's what's coming up on the SGF. Stay tuned. All right, and welcome back to another episode of the Simply Growing Food Podcast. I am actually joined today by Farmer Cass. How's it going, Cass?
It's going pretty good.
It's been a while since you've been on. How long do you think it's been?
Couple weeks at least.
Definitely too long. Folks want to hear from you. We are also sitting down with our friend Ling. How's it going, Ling?
Hey, it's going good.
So Ling has helped us on the farm this past season doing chickens. I know her well from the fantastic ramp salt that she gifted us one time. That stuff is banging. I want to know how to make it and maybe get some more from you. But first, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you even found agriculture? Because every time we talk to you, I hear a story about a buffalo or some kind of cow or something. So how did you find your way into farming? What's your background? Where'd you come from? What's your schooling? What do you got?
So I grew up in Thompson, Connecticut.
Groovy.
And then I had decided to just try something different for high school. So I ended up doing Killingly High School, different town. I've always liked to explore new things or whatever. And, of course, the only way to really, be a part of that high school is if I joined the vocational agricultural program. And I really always loved, our animals growing up and stuff. And so I decided to join that. And back then, I was so awkward and shy. I was, the awkward student. And I actually was in Bonnie Kegler's class, and she was an animal science teacher.
Okay.
Yeah, and we had to do a project, what they call SAE project. So I ended up trying a few things, and I had a friend that worked on a dairy farm, and I was like, hey, well, maybe I'll try that, something. So I ended up working on this dairy farm, 200 cows in Thompson.
Okay.
And so Fort Hill Farms.
Yep.
And that's kind of where a lot of it began, was just working with the cows. I ended up doing a lot of calf feeder training milking cows.
Yeah.
So backtrack to 20 years ago, more than yeah. So it was 25 years ago.
Yeah.
You could find me in the milking parlor and milking the cows. And so that's what got me started. And my parents always kind of encouraged me to, pursue what I was interested in. And I was like, oh, this is cool. Well, I'm okay with this,
So you didn't, growing up, did you have farm animals at the house? At your house?
No,
Okay.
we just had cats and our dog.
Nice.
And we didn't have any livestock or chickens or anything like that, but yeah, my parents always brought me to the Woodstock Fair.
Sure.
And they brought us to the farm tour at Fairview Farms when I was young, and that was really great.
Go ahead.
And when I was younger, my family brought me to Fairview Farms for the farm tour too, so that kind of got me interested in cows too.
So then it became a cow thing.
You did, yeah.
What specifically, I mean, They do a lot of things over there, don't they? They have a lot of different livestock.
Yeah, I've heard. This is not the first person I've heard of with their farm tours. They're pretty well known, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
To this day.
Yeah.
They so they are primarily a dairy cow farm, and so they're probably one of the larger dairy farms in Connecticut, and that really did plant a lot of seeds for me. And I don't work in the dairy industry anymore,
Right.
but I definitely appreciate all those times when I was a child and these people introducing me to just different types of animals, different things. And Bonnie Kegler at the VOAG program too would she brought us to that farm and we got to stick our arm in cows' butts and all these other things, and just the connections like through that when I was younger. I so wish that for a lot of other people, young people these days, that they could, get off their phones and get out and explore and try things,
Go hang out on a farm and become familiar with a cow.
Yeah.
So where did that take you? So that was in high school. So you started this dairy interest in high school, and then where'd you go?
So, okay, so my...
Yes.
I can edit this out. I can edit this for you. So, yeah. Okay, so now, it's 2025. I'm a professional photographer. I don't work as an employee for anybody else. I have my photography business. I would say I'm pretty successful. Reaching six figures.
Nice.
I've been doing photography since 2013, and so I've been around for a little while.
Yes.
And the interesting thing is that I honestly wouldn't be here if it wasn't for like all of these opportunities that I had in the past and for my involvement in the farming industry.
Interesting.
So so my husband and I, we now live in Brooklyn. We have kind of a little homestead, a big garden. We have 3 rat terriers. We don't have any kids. But I honestly, so right now, I am focusing more on commercial photography and like doing photography for different businesses, in particular like farm related businesses. And I guess my whole life model, cut that out. My whole life motto is like everything happens for a reason.
Sure.
So like I've always done photography like ever since I was a kid, but honestly, like if it wasn't for my involvement in the dairy industry, I wouldn't be here as a photographer at all. And the reason why I say that is because during the past decades, I guess you could say, I've always like carried a camera with me when I would go places, and like on my job, if I did see something really cool to photograph, like if I saw this incredible sunrise, the sun shining through the dust as a tractor is tilling a field, stuff like that, I would have my camera and I would snap that photo. So, and honestly, I never intended on being a photographer. The thought never occurred to me. I never planned on it. I never thought you could make money doing photography.
I understand.
And I honestly, it was kind of by chance, but also like I would have to say also my faith in God too, because when I was in the agriculture program in high school, I wanted to become a veterinarian.
Okay.
Of course, that's what everyone wanted.
Yeah.
Like, everyone was interested in animals. I want to do pre-vet. So naturally, that was a thing. And so I remember, figuring out which colleges to apply to. I wanted the some of the best agricultural colleges. So I applied to a bunch of them. I got accepted to them.
Hey.
And one day I literally had to get back to this one college today if I was going to pick them or not. And it's a really, really scary thing because I never really traveled very far, and it was like a new venture. And so
Right, and here you are, about 17 years old, right?
yeah.
So that's a big decision to make.
So basically, I said, okay, I could go to any of these places, but when I was sitting in class one day, well, actually it was after school, I remember looking out the window, and the lawnmower was going, a smell of fresh cut grass, and I honestly didn't know what I should do because there was nobody in my life that can make this decision for me,
Right.
And so I said, so I just said to myself, I just don't even know. Like, I just wanted an answer, and I had no faith in anything back then. But I kid you not, like, I heard a still small voice, like, when you feel like you should do something, like, oh, this is it, like, do like this calling type of a thing. It was like that still small voice that said, come to Idaho, come to Idaho. And I was here in like northeastern Connecticut in the quiet corner, this shy, awkward kid who the face would turn red every time I talked to somebody.
Sure.
No one liked me, and I wanted to get the hell out of here.
No one likes me.
and I placed
Idaho liked you.
Yeah, Idaho likes you.
well, and I heard the still small voice like come to Idaho, so I was like, okay, I'm choosing University of Idaho of all places, and all of my like acquaintances, friends, I guess, thought that I was crazy.
Right, like, what the heck is in Idaho? That is beautiful.
Right, so I mean, I could have gone to University of Maine, University of Connecticut, Delaware Valley College, and I was like, I'm gonna do Idaho, and so that still small voice, and that decision was made right there, and that was kind of where everything all like kind of evolved in my life. That brings me to being a photographer. So I went to school for animal science. So I have a bachelor's degree in animal science because I decided in my junior year I didn't want to spend the next 4 years or more of my life studying minute scientific terms to become a veterinarian, to spend the rest of my life like perhaps most likely looking at people's sick animals like did not appeal to me. And I had spent a lot of time job shadowing veterinarians. There were like great experiences.
Heartbreaking.
But you learn to accept like, okay, this is the way it is. Here's a process. Here's a solution. And so, but I had no desire to want to spend the rest of my life that way. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but honestly, so that. First year in college, I guess you could say that like my faith in God was solidified. Like it's a real relationship, and some people may disagree, but whatever
to each their own.
What you find, and for me, that's what happened. And then through all those 4 years, I had a lot of really cool experiences, and I'm so thankful for them because they really did plant the seeds for photography, we have to cut this out. It was part of the pausing.
No worries. Raw is good. Yeah. Raw is good. It's real.
Yeah.
So when you got to Idaho, like you land in Idaho, do you remember that experience?
Yeah.
Was it was it life-changing when you hit the tarmac, or what? You get there, do you hear like heavenly angel choirs or what? Like, I'm meant to be here.
It was really exciting. I knew I was meant to be there when I arrived on campus with my dad and my uncle.
Wow.
And
what did that feel like?
It was like somebody picked me up, put me in middle of nowhere, of rolling hills, of lentils and wheat, and that was all there was. There was no city.
Yeah.
It was wide open spaces. I could see hundreds of miles, and nobody cared about who I was. Nobody, because we were all like discovering ourselves, in college, which is great. But I could. I really felt like it was like somebody just like pulled me out of some other universe and put me in a different one.
Wow.
And really just incredible sceneries, amazing people. So during those 4 years, I worked with two pretty significant professors. So I worked for a professor who was really pivotal in actually doing research for bovine growth hormone, which I'm sure many people know. And so it was amazing. Like, I worked under him for a work study program for like 4 years doing research on a anti-carcinogenic fatty acid that can be found in milk from cows that are eating higher grass content.
Is it CDL or?
It's CLA.
CLA.
It's, conjugated linoleic acid. Yeah.
I just talked about this on the last milk podcast.
Yeah. So I did a lot of those, things, collecting samples and everything, biotechnology building. And then I also, towards the end of my time in Idaho, I worked for, I think she's probably one of the most important leaders in rangeland ecology. So she is, like, everyone in rangeland science knows her name, and so Karen Launchbog, she is one of the most important people in as far as like grazing research goes and rangeland ecology.
So is that what rangeland means?
Yeah, so rangelands are rangelands are land that has very limited rainfall. So you can't find rangeland here in New England because there's a lot of rain, but rangeland is, when you look at like a desert or a grassland and stuff, the vegetation is limited, but it's what makes up most of the United States.
Range is a terrain type?
Yeah, rangelands.
Range, like out on the range.
Yeah.
That's okay, interesting.
Yeah, so she did a lot of research on like livestock grazing, targeted grazing, on weeds, noxious weeds. So I worked for her, and so when I worked for those two professors, I do remember, having to, take pictures of certain things for research. Not a lot, but in those times there in Idaho, we would go to ranches, places, and of course everyone took their camera. We didn't have mobile devices. I mean, we did with flip phones, but we wanted to remember, take pictures of how one piece of land changed after a certain project or management protocol. So I remember seeing like images and things. So it's a lot of different little seeds that were planted that brings me to where I am today. But I photograph mostly people now. So people and for businesses. So naturally, like when I left University of Idaho, I graduated and left the to find a job that was during the recession, and it was the worst time. And of course, I'm like, well, since all my background, really work experiences was in the dairy industry, I based like a lot of my internships were on very large dairy farms in Idaho.
How large?
So
like how many head?
I mean thousands.
Okay.
So yeah. so I was an intern I was a summer intern at a dairy farm that had like I don't remember now, it was three or four different dairy farms together owned by the same company.
Got it.
And and then I also did like a dairy internship for a week in Oregon when I was out there. So, so there were a lot of things that led up to like, okay, well, I can, just try to find what I can. So I ended up getting a summer internship at a bison ranch in Oregon, and I knew I didn't want to go back to Connecticut, but I was like, at that time, my boyfriend at that time was in Oregon, so I was like, well, this is closer to where he is. So I did this bison internship. Where the end, so the road ends in Williams, Oregon. It was like the place where there are rumors of Sasquatch, and I lived in a yurt with no electricity at the base of a mountain, and I was involved with everything from like irrigating to going to the farmer's market to sell the bison meat, and fulfilling orders, online orders. We ship bison meat across the country, and so I did that. And then, but the year before that, I also worked on a cattle ranch in Wyoming that was owned by he was some CEO of Coca-Cola. So like you look at all your past experiences and they're kind of like stepping stones, and they lead you to the next thing. So naturally I was like, okay, well, I really need to find a job. Like, these internships are great in exploring and finding out like what you love, what you can do. But I ended up getting a job for a nonprofit. I had two choices. I had two job offers. I could work for this nonprofit as basically a milk tester, or I could also work as a artificial inseminator for what would become like the largest dairy farm that would supply milk for Tillamook brand.
Wow.
And I had my interviews with them, and I mean, that's, tens of thousands of dairy cows in middle of nowhere, Oregon. And I thought to myself, I would not have a social life in Boardman, Oregon. This is not happening.
It was called Boardman?
Yeah, it's called Boardman.
I'm bored.
And
I'm bored with Boardman.
and it's very desolate there. So
I would
just
imagine.
was like, okay, well, there's a recession. Here are my job offers.
Yeah.
This is what I'm going to take. I'm going to do this non-profit milk tester job that is not very, it's not very incredible, but...
So you became a milk tester. What was that like?
Yeah, so as a milk tester, you don't need a college degree to become a milk tester, but it was an important job, and I was there for almost 6 years. And
wow.
Yeah.
In Oregon.
Wow. But as a milk tester, I'd have to travel to Washington and Southern Oregon, so we're talking about up to 4 hours of driving to go to dairy farms and collect milk samples. And with that came the responsibility of trying to get new clients to sign up for the milk testing service. So I did a lot of marketing. And back then I didn't know what the heck marketing was, you know. But that's what I was doing, and basically got sales. So I ended up getting a lot of dairy farm clients for myself and for my other coworkers too. So I did that for 6 years, and during that time I had purchased kind of a more upgraded point and shoot camera.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
Interesting. So, what are you testing for exactly in the milk? Like just a concentration of minerals, basically?
So basically, every dairy farmer needs to know the components in the milk to make management decisions. And so, because you can just keep milking a cow, but it's better if you know what the white blood cell count is for each cow that you have, and also for percent of butter fat and protein. So those were the main things that the samples were analyzed for in the lab.
Sure.
So that helps farmers it gives them data to make decisions on any changes in their feed,
Right.
or in their milking procedures.
They're not
all
eyeballing
sorts
it.
of things.
Yeah.
So it's really important. And then now with technology, you don't really necessarily need a milk tester, but with this program, this nonprofit, they provided important records that were more official and not super biased for animal pedigrees.
Interesting.
So.
Huh. What do you mean by bias for animal pedigree?
Yeah, so it's basically as DHIA, you're like a third party collecting the samples and
see.
producing the data that goes on the records for these cows.
Got
So if they want to sell an animal, or they want to they want to have a lineage of mothers and daughters and sires and things.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a program that is beneficial for the farmer. But yeah, so in that time, I traveled to farms that were milking 2,000 cows, and I'd work on these farms, collect the samples. I built a really great rapport with these farmers, and so I gained a lot of really great clients and relationships, because it's a very, very tough industry, being half Asian and a woman in a milking parlor that like Latinos that may not understand you. So I taught myself Spanish.
Wow.
And then at that time, I eventually you travel, you see sunrises, and you see incredible sceneries, elk, a herd of elk getting up right in front of you, shaking the dew off their hide, that type of a thing. So I would just take my camera, I would just snap a few photos on my way to these dairy farms in the middle of nowhere, and just incredible sunrises, sunsets, and I love that, because this is this is God's creation, and also taking pictures of people's cows. Some people wanted that, so I did that, and then how I got into people photography, I eventually met these two ladies. I call them the Marias, and
the Marias.
So they're both named Maria, and this one Maria, young gal, had a family. She said she had never, I forget how I got connected with her, but through the Hispanic circles, she had never gotten any photos of her kids before in her life and her family. Her parents in Mexico had never seen any photos of their kids, and so I eventually did these portrait sessions and these family photos of these Hispanic families, and for their little kids' baptisms and things like that, and they would just donate me $20 or whatever it was. So I honestly just ended up doing a lot of people photography from that, and I photographed a high school senior portraits for one of my dairy farmer clients for his son. It was one of my first senior session, and I knew that there was a gift there. I purchased my first DSLR camera, real legit camera for a big trip. So it was a trip to Israel.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
How long were you there?
I was there for 13 days.
And what year was this?
2011.
What was it like? I mean, what was the biggest thing you took away from your trip to Israel?
The biggest thing that I took away was, there was a lot. It was the reality that history really is important, and that there's also evidence in the world around us, but also that I could actually be a professional photographer, because I taught myself how to shoot manual mode. I would take candid photos of these I guess you would call nomads, but we call them in Israel you call them the Bedouins. I took candids of these Bedouins from the Greyhound bus, whatever that bus was, the tour bus, while we were driving driving,
Yeah.
you know, and they were like incredible shots. Like, so I remember like teaching myself how to shoot manual mode. I shot over 1,000 photos on that used DSLR camera, came back, and people were like, "Oh, like can you photograph my wedding? Can you photograph this event? Can you like do these photo sessions?"
Wow.
And
So the proof was in the picture.
right?
Your trip to the Holy Land solidified your place as a photographer.
I know.
Absolutely.
And I'm just
Wow.
curious, was this trip for pleasure? Was it for work? Why did you go there?
This trip was it was through the church I was at, just non-denominational Christian church, biblical studies, and my friends, this church were going. I was like, I want to travel, because, you know, if I came from Connecticut, go out to Idaho, I can, you know,
You go to Israel.
wherever,
Yeah,
you
whatever.
know? And so I did, you know, save enough money to do that, and I'm happy I went. I probably would not go back again, but it really was incredible. And I remember coming back with these photos, printing them, and I made this scrapbook. A huge scrapbook, because all these other dairy farm clients were very curious about this, and I made a scrapbook, and this book was passed around to hundreds of people, families, like Latino families that worked on these dairy farms, and I did a lot of just like educating about the things that I saw through the photos, and that was really. That was really like pivotal, and I think also, like, you know, working in the dairy industry, like, you know, it's not where it was, and I knew that, okay, at some point I did need to move back home, and I needed to get out, because I didn't think that my job was going. I mean, I knew there was a lot of potential in my job, and it was really great, but with how technology was going, like no, they would have needed a milk tester, and then lo and behold, just within 2-3 years after I left, some of the best well-managed dairy farms went out of business.
Whoa.
They sold out.
Or did they take a buyout from the government? Is that one of that situation?
They're a mix of different things.
Okay, just curious. Yeah.
But honestly, like, I knew that I had to, like, you know, stop flying back and forth from Connecticut to Oregon, like, multiple times a year, and I was like, I can do photography, so I worked. I did a lot of sessions. I did a photo session at Hazelnut Grove. I did some photo shoots on dairy farms, and I photographed my first wedding in a hop yard.
Oh, nice.
It was a wedding, and I knew, like, okay, there's a thing here. I could create a brand that focuses on weddings on farms, and although as a commercial photographer, you don't want to say that you have experience with weddings, but weddings really did help. Weddings and portraits helped me to develop, like, those interpersonal skills with people, and to, you know, like, reading their faces, and really just, like, being a helpful service provider. So I think that was really important. So I booked 5 weddings on the East Coast while I was still living in Oregon.
Oh my God!
And so that helped me transition. I knew that I could safely move back home. And so
you knew you had to at that point too.
And I gave everyone like a year's notice that I was leaving. Well, kind of. You know, and I was living on a dairy farm. Yeah, I was living on a dairy farm, and I walked over. I would have to walk over this piece of twine every time I get my mail, and I was thinking about a name for my business. And one day I was, like, driving to Klamath Falls, 4-hour drive by Crater Lake, and I was thinking, I want to build a photography brand for farm weddings, because I like farms and I like weddings. So I thought, I was thinking about getting a package for when I get home and walking along this twine. So trailing twine photography came into existence from this,
okay.
and so
trailing twine.
Yeah.
Like baling twine.
Yeah.
Right. I like that.
So,
That's pretty
yeah,
good.
like trailing twine photography LLC, and so I started that, and it was like what I knew I knew the month that I had to move back home, and I told everyone in the communities I was involved with in Oregon, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be married to the man that I'm married to today.
Really? Oh, dang.
Yeah, so I was involved with a homeless community and helping with them, and then one of the gentlemen that was a volunteer, he helped work with this homeless community, Neil, who you know.
Shout out to Neil.
Yeah,
Yep.
so he was just like a friend, and he, well, I never had any interest in him at all, because I was like, he's not a farmer. He doesn't have any interest in farming, and he doesn't know anything about cows. He just doesn't, like,
it's not in him.
This is what's gonna happen.
And I know you had said he was, he liked things like Oreos and Chips Ahoy.
Yeah,
so definitely different from what you were used to, I'm sure.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. And so, I think, sorry, I know this is pretty long, but
no, that's good.
It's great.
So we're good. So honestly, I had a dream that I was, I had this dream, and from that dream I woke up, I was like, I do need to move back home. Like, this has to happen. So when I had announced to everyone in this homeless community, they were like, everyone did not take it very well. But I knew it had to happen. It was a really great community to be involved with, like the community service. Like Neil and I and other people, like we would basically be in charge of like bringing these homeless people to places to give them experiences. We'd bring them to the beach. We would, I would bring them to my boss's cherry farm. He had a big cherry farm, and we would harvest cherries. So I would arrange these things with these homeless people that have very sketchy backgrounds and,
very trusting of you.
Yeah, very sketchy backgrounds, and we would pick cherries for my boss, and and all these things that were really great to do. And when I told them I had to leave, and I remember Neil's face, and his face turned red. It was not good.
Oh, so wait, you were dating Neil?
I was not.
Oh, you weren't dating Neil. Okay.
And side note, I just want to recap. So Neil is from Oregon?
Correct. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Wow.
He is from Southern Oregon, the place
My
where
goodness.
I worked at the Bison Ranch in that same era, but I didn't know who he was. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So yeah. So
All right, sorry, we interrupted.
Yeah.
So you tell Neil that you gotta leave.
I tell everybody that I'm leaving, that I'm moving.
You can see he's visibly upset by this.
This is not okay. I cannot leave. It's
not in my plan here.
And so he had a hard time with that, wrestling with that, and I would just continue on, just work on work and training my replacement and helping these dairies with this transition, and just making sure everything goes smoothly, and I just workaholic is what I was there, and I'm still am, I guess. But and when I was at a week trip on these dairy farms every month, and when he told me that there was something more than a friendship here, and I said no.
Whoa.
I said no. I am moving to Connecticut. I'm going to marry a dairy farmer, and and you are not it. I'm moving to Connecticut. I'm going going to live in New England probably for the rest of my life, and I just don't see like you leaving this homeless community thing that you started and just leaving it and like moving to Connecticut and leaving this job that you have and you know gets great setup for retirement. Like I'm like our interests are not aligned. Like this is not going to like I'm moving in April and that's what it is. And so I remember the worst day of my whole entire like 6 years as a milk tester was that day. Whoa. Because like some people they say they believe in karma or whatever, but this was like everything that could possibly go wrong in a milk test like went wrong. Like
really?
Yeah. So it was like nightmarish. Okay. So when I do a job, I do it to its full completion, and I do a good job of it and everything. And for this was devastating. Like because I told him at that day I was working on the phone like this isn't happening, and it was like yeah.
Wait, so he called you or you called him?
Yeah, he called me, and I just like I remember feeling horrible. Wow. When you do something really bad, and like in as a Christian, you call that sin, and that's what it felt like, and I couldn't reconcile with that for like a week. So basically, there was a lot of stuff that had happened after that, but I really I knew I was supposed to move back, and then there were moments, there were experiences that. You happen like you can't really fully explain, but the stars align, and then maybe your vision is changed, and you see something different, different perspectives. So that's what happened, and Neil and I had decided that we were going to be together. Like, and I knew he was the one. I couldn't. There was a big snowstorm that happened.
Yeah, I was going to say, how long? So you have this phone call.
Yeah.
You break this guy's heart.
Yeah.
Nicely. How long in between that and what you just said? Like how many weeks went by?
It was like about 2 weeks.
Okay.
Yeah, so because I came back from working on those 4 dairy farms, and it was the worst week of my life. And I came back. I showed up at the homeless church, and he was doing the volunteer. He wouldn't talk to me. He ignored me.
No cold shoulder.
And it was Super Bowl Sunday.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, I gotta get coffee with Neil. I was like, I don't know what his Super Bowl plans are, but after church, I was like, we need to talk. Like we need to. I'm sorry, but we need to talk. How
nice! After church, we're having a conversation over coffee.
Because he didn't have any Super Bowl plans. I was like, okay, so we went to the Beanery Cafe, and we'd always get together for a coffee, talk about different things, but. So we had the coffee, and I talked about like kind of life goals and things, and everything felt good. It was like wow, okay, like it was like my perspective was changed, and then when in Oregon, like when it snows. It's shut down. Everything is shut down. They don't plow. They don't have plows, so...
That sucks.
So I had to reschedule all my dairy farms for, I had to put it off by a week. And so I had this time, I was holed up on this dairy farm in, Willamette Valley, and, I couldn't go anywhere. I was 2 feet of snow. And so I said to myself, you know what, today... And this was February 8th or 9th or something like that. I'm going to just do some reflection because, now my life is paused. I can't work. I can't focus on all these other, things.
Anything.
And so I shut my phone off, and I just looked back in my journal. I just did a lot of reflection and everything, and I did have a journal entry that was written 5 years ago, at that
time,
date, and I wrote, if I don't meet you until 5 years from now, I'm okay with it. God's will be done. And I was reading that, and I couldn't believe it. It was 5 years to the day.
Wow.
It was 5 years to the day, and I just was like, this can't be, you know, because
Goosebumps.
I spent that whole morning just thinking about Nia, and I was thinking about just those deep life philosophical things, you know, and I remember just getting so I don't know, I was frustrated in a way, but I was shocked. I remember throwing the book across the room because I just couldn't believe I was reading this. Yeah. Is this real? Is this happening? And everything in there was this is where I'm supposed to be, you know? And so, I like all these clues, you know, they line up and
very full circle.
Right? Yeah. Full circle. Okay. And the bison ranch that I worked on was Full Circle Bison Ranch, but anyway, which is funny.
This is what brought you to Oregon, right?
Yes, exactly. Wow. Yeah. Right, and so I, you know, after that whole thing, that day, I turned my phone back on. I called Neil. I was like, we need to get together again. I told him my revelations, I guess, you know, this whole thing. And
he's like, thank God I don't have to become a dairy farmer.
Exactly. Yeah. And I was like, who knows, you know? And I never I never did anything to want to change him because right now he's a homesteader. He's a little farmer. He grows 300 heads of garlic and hundreds of pounds of potatoes and
he helped us on chicken day.
He did. You dragged him out on a chicken day, and he did great.
Yeah,
great job.
And he liked to learn farm things. So who would have thought, you know? And so I am thankful for everything. And I guess the motto of my life is everything happens for a reason. You just never know. So so now I'm kind of oh well, I'm a photographer. I built my photography business, and so but did I waste my whole life working on these farms? You have this great career transition. You feel in a way that you've wasted money or your time but now when I look back, I know that as a commercial photographer, I can take my background and past experiences with hundreds of different people and personality types and farmers and places and the equipment that I've used, the different things and all kinds of different types of farming or whatever.
Sure.
I can take those experiences and that builds common ground with clientele. So I'm right now I do part-time freelance marketing stuff for some different farms and some different businesses and I just my whole goal is I want to be able to connect people with other people, and I've always loved doing that, you know. So
Community farming.
Right. Yeah.
It's all there. It's all there.
Right. Yeah.
I have a bunch of other things I want to talk about.
I'm sure you have some questions.
But I think you have a hard out, don't you? You have to go.
I think I have a little bit more
10 minutes?
time. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Let's see. So, talking about community, talking about farming. A little bit of a segue here. You're also into dogs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Now, when you're traveling around the West Coast on all these dairy farms, are there a lot of working dogs on their farms?
Some, no. The bigger ones, no, not so much.
Okay. Is that because it's dairy? Is it dairy versus beef or?
The cattle ranch, they had working herding dogs.
Okay.
So when we would move cattle, some of us would be on the 4-wheelers, and then then they used also the dogs.
Any horses?
To help herd, and
cowboys,
horses. Yep.
cowgirls.
So
I've
done cattle drives and.
You've ridden horses doing it?
Yeah.
Ling,
not a lot,
you're a cowgirl?
Well, I don't know.
I think so. More so than either one of us.
I've never been on a horse.
I would prefer to move cattle in other ways, but I mean, I'm not a horseback rider. I'm like, my body can't, like, I never, I mean, I like the idea of riding a horse, but I mean, I had to do it a few times that summer in Wyoming, because I did an internship there. But the dogs at that ranch, it was incredible to see them work. Like, they were so good in moving cattle, and like that was really great. I've always loved dogs ever since I was a kid. Of course, I was like, I'm gonna be a veterinarian, and then eventually it was like, oh well, maybe I don't have to be a dog vet, but I could be a cow vet. Well, but that wasn't.
Well, you ended up on a pretty. I mean, it's not like a rare breed of dog, but it's a pretty specific breed of dog. So what do you have exactly?
So I have 3 rat terriers.
Okay.
And
what are their names?
Yeah, so
introduce the family.
So Woody and Lucy and Benny. And
I like it.
What a crew.
Yeah.
Sounds like a band.
Woody, Lucy, and Benny.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah. So these dogs, for people who don't know, the rat terrier is like the traditional American farm terrier.
Okay.
If you look back and I have some like old-fashioned photos from my dad's side of the family on their farm in Dudley, Mass. It looked like, to me, it was a rat terrier. It never officially became a breed until like several years ago, recently.
What?
Yeah, so never, AKC, American Kennel Club, didn't officially recognize them until like several years ago.
They've been around forever. That's so weird.
Yeah, they've been around for a long time, but so rat terriers, they are great with rodent detection and rodent control, and so I know some people may be really squeamish about it, and I am, but these rat terriers are incredible. I mean, there are some that are more couch potatoes and are not like super great ratters on a farm, but the dogs that we have are like incredible. So I am sure you probably want to know why I got them, right?
So you bought them? Did you get them from a specific rat training bloodline?
Kind of, yeah. So I did some research online, and I found a lovely lady in Vermont, Warren Mountain Rat Terriers.
Okay.
Carmetta, and she has been involved in the breed for a long time, and I just loved the photos that she posted, about these rat terriers. I knew I wanted one because when I lived on this dairy farm in Oregon, when you have a farm, you deal with rats. Okay, it's the reality of it. Farmers they've had a hard time like trying to control the rat problem, and anyway, so. My coworker at that time, who was also a milk tester, Cheryl Van Noy. She was I guess you could say grumpy old lady, and she just really loved her dog. She would tell me about her Swedish Valhunds and her corgis winning these awards, these titles that I didn't even know what in the world these titles meant, and she'd invite me to these agility events and
a dog
AKC
show,
events.
Right? Yeah.
She invited me to like it's not like a confirmation dog show, but just so she invited me to an agility event, and then also to a barn hunt, which is our American Kennel Club recognized sport for dogs.
Barn hunt?
It's called barn hunt.
Barn hunt, okay.
Barn hunt, yeah. So there's barn hunt and earth dog, and what they do is they test the dog's ability to detect the scent of a live rat versus like rat urine or whatever.
Okay.
Yeah. So they put the rat in a tube. The rats are not harmed at all, and so Cheryl really introduced me to the dog world, really, and so I told my landlords, my the dairy farmers. I said to Brian and Marshall Christensen, I said, hey, yeah, like I'm gonna go to a barn hunt, and they're like, what is that? You know, like, well, I'll let you know. You know, I'm gonna find out. So I actually photographed my first dog event there.
Wow.
I took candids for these like dog owners, candid photos, you know,
of these dogs ripping up rats.
No, they were like these dogs that were sniffing and looking so curious at like a rat in a tube, you know. So so these dogs were running through hay bales and stuff, and so you know, like that was a fun little like photo shoot thing that I had tried back then. This was back in I would say 2012 or 2013.
Okay.
So I told my landlords, and they were like, "Well, let's do that. Yeah. We got a rat problem, so let's get a dog. What do you think?" Like I said, "Well, there's rat terriers, so they
start with that.
Yeah,
Yep.
so they came to the farm with Barney. It was a rat terrier Basenji mix, I think, but yeah, he had some good rat terrier in him, and he was not the best ratting dog, but he did do some ratting, so I did train him, because you know the farmers were like, he needs to do his job here, you know, otherwise, you know, he's like
freeloader.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So I trained him to, you know, try to, you know, get rats on the dairy farm, and you know, like you have to be careful about it because you don't want to scare the cows and things. But that farm, they did have you know, a couple working dogs, so the cows were kind of used to the dogs.
Yeah.
But I loved him, like Barney. So that was like, okay, like I knew if I got a dog when I moved back home to Connecticut, I would get something like a rat terrier.
So it's called ratting?
Yeah.
The act of like hunting for rats?
Mm-hmm, yeah. So my husband and I really loved Barney.
Okay. So Neil was into it too.
Yeah, so we got married there, and he loved Barney, and the farmers were like, take him, you know, like he's not killing enough rats here on the farm to stay, but we couldn't take him, and so when we got our house, we got a dog, and we got Woody from Carmetta, and we started working with him, and then we got Lucy, and Lucy, you know, she was so incredible that we were like, we should look into doing this more, you know, so we go to people's backyards, we go to farms, we've gone to homes where people need live rat detection, and the dogs signal to us that, you know, there is a live rat here, so we try to work with the dog to get the rats out, and the dogs get them, or you know, some places are more difficult than others to work, but we kind of do this, and I used to be really ashamed about it, but I am not.
Yeah, why?
I don't tell people because, like, oh, I'm this like really cool photographer, and like to be associated with disgusting animals like rats is like.
Well, it's not like you're hugging them or nothing. You know? You don't have any pets.
No, and
right.
No trainer.
No trainer rats at home. Yeah,
definitely not. Yeah, I mean, like it is. It's really incredible to see like the thing that like, you know, these dogs are meant to do. Like it's like God made these dogs to like do these things. You know. Now,
will a rat dog go after like a ferret or
maybe
or weasel?
Yeah, I mean, they are first attracted to things that move that they know they can get, you know, so...
Is it a size thing?
Yes and no, but I think that the key thing with the dogs is that they they can identify the smell of the rat versus the smell of a chipmunk or a mouse.
Right. Okay.
And when they are introduced to the rat itself and they are like, you know, encouraged to get it, it's a very humane way of rat control because
Seems
the dogs the dogs, they shake, they let go, they don't eat the rats. I mean, they shouldn't. They are driven to chase after things that move and that run. And these rat terriers, once they see one, they shake one, and what naturally happens is another one comes out. So that's their reward, is to get another one. So it's just like, you know, chasing a toy, you know, or like your dog chasing a sock or a shoe, you know, it's like that. And so it's very quick. You know, 2-3 seconds, the rat is gone, they move on to the next, and, you know, pretty soon you get like a whole nest or even the whole, like, you know, colonies.
Awesome.
So like the more ratting dogs you get, so there could be other terriers too, like we have connections with other terriers, and I know that there may be people who disagree with this, but this is a reality, that this is a real problem that people have, especially if you are a certified organic farm or you do have organic methods, or if your poison is not working.
Right, which, you know, in our case, we wouldn't ever want to put down poison just because of the other critters that we have. So this is a great alternative.
That was my
to that.
question, actually. Do you worry, like, if a farm has put out poison, right, and you're bringing your dogs there? Because I know the poison's not immediately, it doesn't immediately kill the rat. They got to drink water in order for it to be activated. So is there ever a concern where, like, your dog could bite a rat that has already eaten poison, or, like, how do you cross that bridge?
So the biggest concern is if a dog finds a poison bait, like if a rat drags it to a nest and the dog finds it and gets it.
Yeah.
But we have worked with a couple veterinarians and vet techs in like our kind of network of terrier owners and stuff, and they suggest that, you know, they are fully supportive. They have their dogs that do this too.
Yeah.
And as long as the dog is not ingesting the blood of a rat that's had poison. But for the most part, if there is poison that's used, the rats that have eaten it are sickly and they can't really move. They are sick. They're quickly taken up by a hawk because they can't run. So all the rats that the dogs get are the ones that are still doing very well health-wise, you know. They haven't, you know, and the poison only works if that's like the only food source, really. Right. But, you know, there's a lot of factors that come into play. You know, I personally, like, I'm okay with, you know, working my dog at a place that if they do use bait, because I know that the rats, there may be so many rats that, like, not all of them, they're going to be eating the bait, you know? Right. And I just have to, I know to keep watch of my dog, and, you know, it's, we go to places where the poison, like, doesn't work.
Okay.
Wow.
So,
That's terrifying.
Yeah.
Yeah, God. I saw a few videos Neil showed me last time he was here on his phone of some ratting you guys had done, and it was just, like, awesome. Like, gross, but awesome at the same time. Like, and not gross because the dog's doing their job, just like, wow, that's a lot of rats. Like, oh, my goodness. That's interesting. So we have had killed a few this winter. And it's a slow process, although I baited a trap the other day with some chili, and that worked out nicely. But yeah, I think we've gotten about 8 or 9 over the past winter months, and we never have a problem in season. Like, they must be going somewhere else. I don't know. We don't even see, like, scat or anything in season, you know, whereas this time of year, they're like, well, the barn's warm. So, but yeah, we've been slowly chipping away at them. And it's not like we have a lot of grain exposed or anything, you know, which brings them in. Just like they see a little bit and they find their way in. All right, we'll get off the terrier stuff. But that was fascinating. I really think that's cool.
Well, it is really cool that, you know, like, everything happens for a reason, you know, like, so, like, full circle. I mean, who would have thought that, you know, my first, like, like opportunity, like photographing dogs was there.
A barn hunt.
Yeah, at the barn hunt
Yeah.
with my milk tester coworker, and then just like falling in love with these rat terriers, and then also, you know, I do photography. I do like studio style headshots of dogs for really great high quality dogs, purebred dogs, and you know, these breeds were meant to be here for a reason, and so I'm always like supportive of like creating imagery that really communicates like the purpose and meaning and like identity, like for animals or like people, whatever it is. So I really love that aspect, and you know, the connections in the dog show world are great too. I think that there's some really great, talented, and skilled dogs that are out there that can be used for, you know, commercials or whatever. They have these different abilities, and I think that like it's as an owner of an animal, like you should let the animal live to its fullest potential. Like even for all of us, you know, as people, like finding like your potential, like living to the fullest and doing cool stuff. Yeah.
Speaking of, pose at the door again, little baby. I guess we'll finish it up and plug your local Getaways book. Cash, you want to take it away here and chat a little bit about this gem? You want me to flip pages for you? What do you got?
Well, mostly I just wanted to ask you, Ling, if somebody were to, you know, want to learn more about you, want to find out about your services, want to find out about your local Getaways book, where could they find that?
Yeah, so last year I spent hours and hours working on some photo shoots for a book, because I love connecting people with experiences and promoting farms. And so I created this book. It's called Local Getaways, and it's only focused on Windham County, so the northeast corner of Connecticut. And it is a visual guide to 90 great, amazing, interesting experiences and places to go with your family or with your partner. It is it's 196 pages, and lots of photos, and Daigle Farm is in the book.
Page 122, I think.
Yeah. So there's two versions of the book. There's a hardcover coffee table book, and then there's a smaller on-the-go guide. And this book can be purchased probably from Daigle Farm when they're open. Also, just reach out to them if you want a copy, or to me, but you can also order online at localgetawaysbook.com.
We'll put that in the show notes.
Yep. And also my website is lingmesser.com, and there is a link there as well to that book. Also, you can get the book right now as well at Echo Farm in Woodstock on 169 in Connecticut.
That was localgetaways.com?
Localgetawaysbook.com. Yep. Local Getaways book is my passion project. I loved just like, I wanted to create photos that can show the possible experience that people can have at these different farms, restaurants, wineries, places of entertainment, gift shops, farm shops, like experiences for education. I think that it's really, really important, because there's not a lot of tourism that happens in our area. I think it's really nice to be able to have something that I can show people I know, like, oh, you're coming, like, here's where to go, here's a great restaurant to check out. So that's kind of like the purpose behind it all.
Well, it's a pretty good model, really, because sequences abound. I mean, you could do one for every region in the state.
You really could.
Right? you know, or any state.
And this obviously appeals to us as a farmer, but it appeals to every single business that's in this book.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
every single business that's in this book would want copies of this.
They all should be selling it, as far as I'm concerned. They're all in it. They should all be selling a stack of these bad boys, you know. So if you're in the book and you don't have any, call in.
Yeah, I have a really exciting printing coming out
Ooh,
in the spring.
limited edition? What are we doing?
And yeah, so the new edition the new printing will have a couple of changes. Because sadly, Stone Row Kitchen is not in business now, even though I photographed them. But so I'm gonna be having a replacement for that page in there, and also it's gonna have the CT Visit Connecticut Tourism.
That's right.
Branding in the book. So I'm gonna have some support thanks to the Eastern Regional Connecticut Tourism District.
Got you. That's a mouthful.
Yeah,
Jesus.
Eastern Regional Tourism District for Connecticut, promoting tourism in Eastern Connecticut. So I got support from them.
That's awesome.
And so I will be at Wilsonville Farm on May 10th.
Okay.
For their one of their biggest sales, and then a couple of different events and festivals throughout the year, selling the book as well, and just meeting people.
I think it's a great book. As soon as I saw it, I was like, the state needs to pick this thing up, because they're always trying to like do some new, I don't want to call it a gimmick, but some new thing to get people in the quiet corner, okay? This, even if they don't come, at least they know what they're in for. You know what I'm saying? And I think this really details it. The photos are great, which is like the whole focus too. And like you were saying, getting people out here, getting, you know, tourism dollars into the hands of farmers or into the hands of local artisans is the way to go. I think the book's great. I haven't read it cover to cover, but I'm working on it. And if you do have a copy, we're on page 121, but you probably already know that. So, Cass, do you have anything else you'd like to say to Ling before we finish up here?
I guess, Ling, you have so many stories. We need to have you back because there's so many topics we haven't even been able to cover.
Many adventures.
Yes.
Lessons learned.
Many Adventures of Ling. Another book, maybe.
Yeah.
I want to ask you something that, our listeners could take away. Somebody, if they were in a position where you were when you were 17 of, what comes next, what is a piece of advice you would like to leave people with as far as finding their way for their next endeavor?
That's a really good question. I think you need to always keep into perspective that so many things can happen for a reason, even though you may not see it later on. And to never give up trying new things, but also to never forget the things that you do know and like your own skills and talents.
Yeah.
You just never know. I think that a lot of people, especially now, and they're going through hard times, there's like layoffs, people getting fired or whatever.
Yeah.
But I think people need to realize the potential that you have and like the purpose in your life. You may just never know. So I think people just need to never give up hope and to know that things happen for a reason, and you just kind of you take life like step by step. One thing at a time. Try something out. You adjust, and just keep on sharing who you are and your personality, what you have to offer.
Yeah, I liked what you said earlier. I don't know if it was on the show or we were just talking, but you heard a voice, you heard something telling you to go to Idaho right from the jump, and I kind of resonated with that when you said that, because I don't know why I farm. Originally, I didn't know why I got into it. Truthfully, it was just this I could do this. I feel like I want to do this. I don't know if I heard a voice, but maybe I did, because when you said it, it resonated with me. So that was really good.
Yeah, it's like your intuition.
Yes,
Like
yes.
It's your intuition, but also like, I believe that God can speak to anybody. Maybe
Yeah.
you don't believe in God, call God, whatever.
Sure,
but,
different
but
strokes.
honestly, like, there is, in every single person, there's a still small voice and intuition and conviction to know what is right for you, to know. I mean, it's a lot of times, people can be misled
Sure.
or go in a different path, but that's not the end of the world,
Right.
I thought that it was the end of the world, years ago. I was like, this is like, what is happening, I spent all these years working in agriculture, and now, I mean, and my parents, spent all this money on my tuition or what, I got scholarships, but it's like, but don't be ashamed of it. Like, don't be ashamed of your past and like what your abilities are, because they can always be, things can, it can come full circle. So, and to follow that, if you feel that tug or that calling or that thing, you need to do this, like, do it.
Go with it.
Do it, yeah. Be a go-getter,
Yeah.
Ling, your definition of go-getter.
Go get it.
I am always impressed by, you're just, I don't know, your sheer, like...
my craziness, yeah.
It's a great craziness. I
Yeah.
think you have to have a little bit of that craziness to have the confidence to just, like, go out and talk to new people, and you've made a career out of connecting.
To try it, yes.
You've made a career out of connecting with people, so it's truly inspirational.
Plus,
for sure.
You're an entrepreneur, so you have to be crazy.
Exactly.
It's like
exactly.
in there. It's by definition.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Ling, it's great chatting with you. Is there anything you want to tell our listeners?
No, just,
That last thing you said was pretty good. Actually.
yeah, I mean, just,
What more? Yeah.
don't
Tough to
give
top
up
it.
hope.
Don't
Yeah,
give up hope.
Yeah.
I like that. All right, everybody. That's going to do it for this episode of the Simply Growing Food podcast. We hope that you found it informative and educational. And if not, that's a shame. Bye-bye. I know it ain't all that late, but you should probably leave. I recognize that look in your eyes, and you should probably leave. Cause I know you, yeah, you know me. We both know where this is gonna lead. And you want me to say that I want you to stay, so you should probably leave. Yeah, you should probably leave. Hey, thanks for listening to the Simply Growing Food podcast. If you liked it, please share us with a friend or a family member. We appreciate your support. And don't forget, we want to hear from you. We want to know what you want to hear us talk about. If you got questions about farming, if you got questions about what you're eating, please send it to us. You can send it to us at www.simplygrowingfood.com, or you can send us an email at simplygrowingfood@gmail.com. Find us on Facebook, Simply Growing Food Podcast, or just find us on Facebook under Daigle Farm. Give us a Google for Daigle Farm. You'll find us. We appreciate the support. Thanks for all of it.